Boeing says it's operating in what it considers the most complex environment it's seen since World War II, from record demand for commercial jets and defense platforms to strains in the supply chain and geopolitical headwinds. CNA's Roland Lim caught up with the president of Boeing Global, who gave his reasons for why he is still bullish.
We've got unprecedented demand for our products, the commercial products and, of course, our defence platforms. We're also working literally at the leading edge of new technologies. And we have what I would argue are the smartest people in the world that are working with us on building these products and the next generation of them.
You're in a unique position. You're part diplomat, you're part deal maker. What does Boeing need, do you think, from the international governments in terms of trying to stabilize production as well as win back customers' confidence?
78% of the commercial aeroplanes that we sell are to customers outside the United States, nearly 30% of our defence platforms. And what I do on behalf of the company is work with governments in finding out what is it that they require, what do they want from us in their country to develop products in that country for the benefit of that people or the people in that region, and possibly export from it. Governments increasingly, wherever they are in the world, whether it's the F-15s or our E-7 wedge tails or our helicopters, Chinook, whatever the product is, governments are increasingly wanting us to invest in that country for the benefit of that country, which is indeed what we want to do. We've got to make sure that it aligns with the national interest, for example, of Singapore or Vietnam or Malaysia or Indonesia, and it also aligns with our own business.
How much of a span in the works has US President Trump's tariffs been on your international side of things?
The aviation sector is the most integrated and interconnected industry that there is throughout the world. About 20% of our supply chain is outside the United States, so we have to pay tariffs on those components as they come into the United States. We estimate the value around $500 million. Much of the tariffs that we pay, we can claw back from the United States government because we export those planes. As I said, about 80% of them actually outside the United States. One of the other impacts is the impact it might have on second and third tier suppliers that we can't see. So we're concerned to make sure we get continuity of our supply chain. And the other concern we have is reciprocity. So other countries, and we saw this with China, other countries who put a tariff on Boeing aircraft. So our view is that we need, if we can, to get back to a reciprocal tariff environment, which is tariff-free for aviation. So
you've met directly with the Chinese Commerce Minister recently. Given that backdrop, do you think Boeing is finally turning a corner when it comes to China, or there's still that overhang of US-China tensions?
Well, Boeing has had a partnership with China for 52 years. Next month, we've got quite a number of planes to deliver, and we hope that the agreement between the United States and China for this to continue will be continued in the interests of American workers and in the interests of Chinese people who want to fly on commercial aeroplanes. Certainly, the entire world is most impacted by the relationship between the United States and China, and obviously that has a bearing and an impact on our business.
Chinese jet maker Comac also gaining ground, and you've got Chinese carriers that are actually cancelling Boeing orders. What's your strategy in terms of trying to stay competitive and relevant in the Chinese market?
We haven't had Chinese carriers cancelling orders. We did have a period when China applied tariffs to Boeing aircraft coming in, where the Chinese carriers said, look, I'm sorry, we're not going to take those planes. That has now been reversed. Comac is progressively emerging as a supplier to the Chinese market, but it will be quite some time before it is able to meet the demand that China has and the demand from some other countries in Southeast Asia. So from our perspective, we remain ready to supply China with very high quality Boeing aircraft.
You've led efforts to expand Boeing's footprint, Gulf nations, Southeast Asia in particular. I'm interested to know which markets are critical to Boeing's growth outside of the US.
Well, we have a presence in 65 countries. China is 8,800 new planes over the next 20 years. In an enormous market. It will overtake North America in terms of the largest commercial market in the world. But Southeast Asia, a tripling of the fleet over the next 20 years, 4,700 planes. So you put that into context, India, which is an enormous market. India, we're looking at around 3,000 planes over the next 20 years. The other thing that's happening in Southeast Asia is that the percentage of the market, which is low-cost carriers, will go from currently about 20% to 40%. And that's a good thing in the sense that what that means is that a lot of people in Southeast Asia who have never seen the inside of a plane are finally able to be able to fly, to see their family and friends and conduct business or whatever they're going to do, or to see the world. So it's challenging, but it's exciting.